guys, you find yourself facing 3 sets of doors. Each of you has chosen one of them. Chris, what would you like to do?
Can I roll for perception to see if I hear a noise on the outside of the door?
Of course you can. Roll for perception.
A 10.
You press your ear against the door and you hear the faintest sound of footsteps, but as to, what they are, you can't really glean anymore by listening.
Okay. Can I check the door to see if it's locked?
You jimmy the doorknob and it starts to give like it can open.
Can you open the door? I step through the door.
You step to the door and you find yourself face to face with a 6-legged panther with 2 long tentacles coming out of its back.
Ah!
It's kind of gross.
We're gonna cut from you. Ken, you're facing your door. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I'm gonna run.
You're gonna run away from your door?
13.
Lucky 13.
Oh, good. As you're making your dexterity check, you trip over a tile, and you fall prone as your door bursts open, and an enormous purple worm comes slithering out through the doorway.
Dude, you couldn't fit through that door.
Dude, you better Kevin Bacon that. Get out of there.
Tyler, seeing one of your comrades fall and a purple worm slither through the door, what would you like to do?
I'm gonna kick down the door in front of me.
Alright, make a strength check. What did you roll? Or was it actually? Ken, can you confirm if it's a 1? I can't see from here.
You show the camera.
It's a 1.
It's a 1. So, Tyler, I'm gonna need you to roll a d8 for me.
Okay, I guess I can do that. A gentleman's 4.
You take 4 points of bludgeoning damage to your leg.
Oh,
And you now have disadvantage on dexterity checks.
like I needed that.
And your door also bursts open as an owlbear comes barreling out towards you.
Oh, it's so cute.
I
We're
need
gonna
you
be
all to roll
friends.
for initiative, please.
Did you say owlbear? What? Or owlbear?
Owlbear.
Oh.
Arlbear.
Well, it's an owlbear.
12.
5.
10.
Hey, not bad. All right, we're gonna start combat right.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Great Stories Comic Shop Talk. This is the November edition, and we have a pretty good lineup of things. Something new, something old. I think I can say that, right?
Something blue.
Something blue. Yeah.
Something gold?
Something gold. Maybe. I think it's gold based upon what I read. So, anyway.
You must not be talking about a DC comic then.
Oh, it can't be a DC comic.
We're talking about 2
Here we go.
DC comics. today.
Tyler,
Yeah, no,
welcome
actually-
back, man.
actually,
Welcome
I know,
back.
It's been a while.
Yes.
I know you guys have missed me.
Feels good.
All
So-
26 of you.
Yeah.
How many
Well-
viewers do we actually get on this show?
How many what?
Viewers.
How many viewers?
How many
I don't know.
Viewers?
Do we get
Multitudes.
views, right?
Multitudes.
All of them.
They are legion. They are many. All right.
They all watch at 3 a.m. on the local cable access channels, though. So
What I like to
That's
do
right.
is
That's
I
right.
like
We
to
have lots of
just,
viewers out there.
I just like to go through a playlist every day and just let it run so we rack up our view count.
That's actually a good tactic. I should do the same. Anyway, we've got some interesting stuff in the lineup today. I'm going to let Ken introduce the books that we're going to be talking
Ken always
about,
gets to introduce
and
stuff.
we haven't even determined the order yet.
you wanna
Actually, what
introduce?
we're going to be doing.
No,
So-
man, it's all you. You're the comic guy.
Oh man, I feel weird now about doing it. All right, well, I'll do it. We're going to be talking
What do we
about
got?
Dead Man Logan, which just wrapped up last week.
Yes.
The 12-issue maxi series written by Ed Brisson
Mm-hmm.
and illustrated by Mike Henderson. Old Man Logan, finally going out. We kind of saw this coming. I mean, the titles of the series is Dead Man Logan.
Yeah, so eventually he'd probably have to die.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I
it
mean-
wouldn't be true to the title.
Spoiler
They kind of
alert.
labeled it, right? They kind of
Yeah.
just, you know.
You think he's gonna die?
Is that the
Logan.
big twist at the end? Well, we'll find out.
It's like when they called the Old Man Logan. Like we all knew what we're getting into.
Next, we've got Zombie Man Logan.
Young man.
Zombie. Marvel
Reincarnated
Zombie
Man Logan.
Yeah, it was pretty on the nose, but it had to be done. When they killed Wolverine, which seems like forever ago,
Yeah.
they sort of brought him back after the Secret Wars event by taking this character, Old Man Logan, that was created by Mark Millar, that was done as sort of like a little maxi series in the Wolverine series. And they brought him to his own little wasteland battleground area, and then after everything got sorted with Doctor Doom, Wolverine ended up taking a spot in the regular Marvel universe, basically supplanting a regular man Logan
Yes,
with his old man self.
that's right.
And he was a really nice addition. He was a cool little take on the character, right?
Yeah, I would say.
He was more grizzled.
I liked the Old Man Logan series a lot, actually. I think the artwork was good, as well as like just the pacing in
You-
general, and it continues.
You're talking about the original Mark Millar one,
Yeah.
when he's like back fighting the gang of Hulks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Steve
Okay.
McNiven illustrated that, and like he's like top notch.
Yep.
Yeah. Fantastic.
There
It was
that-
actually our top subscribed book at one point.
was Old Man
It
Logan.
was Old Man Logan.
I gotta say, I mean, when it first launched, it had Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino doing
Yep.
artwork, and man, I remember some of those early issues were just insane. The action sequences.
Yeah, they
were
caught
crazy.
you, and,
Yep.
and it could tell so much of the story without so much dialogue. That's what I liked about it, because I am dyslexic, and reading a comic book can actually take me a long time. So Old Man Logan, the ability to actually get through an entire book in like 20 minutes.
Visual storytelling
But
is key to
it was, there's so much of just like the imagery told you what was going on, and yet didn't have to be painted out.
Right.
Which I think is really spoke to the strength of that creative team.
Yep.
And they really held to the just the core of what this Old Man Logan character was. You know, it's kind of like a more grizzled, if possible, version of Logan, one that's kind of somehow lost those ideals that kind of kept him like a good man for a long time.
Yep.
And yeah, when you have a really superstar team like Lemire and Sorrentino doing the creative, I mean, they really paid homage with some of the gruesome brutality. I remember the end of the Mark Millar series,
Yeah.
where I think the Bruce Banner Hulk eats Wolverine, like eats
He
Logan.
does, that's right.
And then like, you know, it's like he makes like this reference, like, you know, tanks are made to like keep things out but not to keep things in, and they
Yes.
just come busting through his stomach.
That's right.
It was you know, just one of those like really truly memorable panels
It
in
was.
comic history.
It was.
Loved it. So he was, I mean, he was definitely, I think, a very welcome addition to Marvel Universe.
Yeah. That's
No doubt.
So it was time for him to say goodbye, though, because with the Infinity Wars series, they brought back regular man Logan. He returned with the Space Stone, and he took a time machine back, and now he rejoins the main Marvel Universe.
Yep.
Not really enough room for two. I mean, we all love Wolverine, but
No, I'm not in favor of having too many of these characters that are almost synonymous characters, right?
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't work. Creates confusion. I think people, you know,
Now, what would you
they're
say?
not on the duality aspect of it. They, you know, it is very confusing to people, and it makes you question everything that we know about, even like time travel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You start relating that, like, how does this happen? How does this coexist now?
Yeah.
This can't, you know. So I'm in favor of retiring the character. It served its purpose for a long time in the absence of the younger version. But I think it's time to return to what you know and are familiar with. Quite honestly, we want a younger version now. I think there's a demand for it. I think people want to see Wolverine as he once was.
yeah, the original Wolverine, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
people want. I felt that like there's like very similar when we did the the X-Men team, right? When they brought the all-new X-Men and they brought young Cyclops back, from the past.
Yep.
And then they resurrected like regular Cyclops, and there was a moment when like the two of them met, and it was really awkward.
Yeah.
It was just like, young Cyclops is just like, this is what I become. And it was like,
Yeah.
was that due to a young Cyclops? How does that change him as an individual? And does that change what the old? Yeah, a lot of stuff with the time traveling gets messy.
It does. And also, I think if there is a criticism that I have for Marvel is the fact that we do have all these like alternate versions out there of all these characters. To me, I guess it's a way to tell a story, a new type of story with an existing property.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I can cheat and get away with this and maybe even like do something really like drastic and not have it affect the the timeline of the character proper, right? Which is great, for some people. I know we've talked about this before, the what if scenarios. Sure. It's basically a what if, bringing it into the 616.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I'm kind of a purist at heart, for my characters, and I want to see them. I want to see their natural progression with all these like different side shoots that they go down, the rabbit holes. And I apologize, that was my phone. And
Unprofessional.
that's just amateurish. Totally amateurish.
Are you checking your phone now too?
I am not checking. I was turning down the volume. We can edit that one out. But
We'll see.
That's now he. Yeah.
But, I mean that's a good point, and I think there was a time for Old Man Logan, and he was a great villain, but I think we were all ready to get back to the original, and it's nice to think that I don't know. I felt they did a good job kind of telling his story and actually completing it here.
Yeah.
Because at the end of Old Man Logan, it was still kind of open, and it felt like for a character like, especially a character like Wolverine, that basically we all kind of think is immortal. It's nice for us to get a look at how it might possibly ultimately end for the old knucklehead. And as to be expected, it's violent. It's in violence.
Sure is.
So Wolverine goes back to his original timeline.
Yep.
And he teams up with the baby Bruce Banner Jr., who he had basically adopted at the end of the Old Man Logan original storyline.
Yep.
And he goes back out, and he's trying to put an end to Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister up to his old tricks again.
Yep.
Trying to take mutants, breed them, clone them, basically restart the Weapon X program. And obviously Logan, having his history with Weapon X, is trying to shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So he goes on the hunt, and with him are Danny Cage, the daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones.
Yep.
And Bruce Banner Jr. Well, he gets kidnapped pretty early on, but it ends as you expect with a big brawl between Danny, Logan, Sabretooth, Mr. Sinister, and Bruce Banner Jr.
And so is this taking place technically in the 616?
No, so this is taking place. Well, this is taking place in the Old Man Logan
This
world.
is the Old Man Logan world.
Yeah, so it's like the 616, but like in his timeline.
Yeah.
If that
Right.
timeline exists.
Okay.
So it's back to when his parents were murdered by the gang. His family was murdered by the Hulk gang.
Yep.
But speaking of, you mentioned characters, alternate versions of characters. We get another alternate version of a character in this episode.
Yeah.
And how did you guys feel about it?
I don't think it's necessary.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us who it is?
Okay, so essentially what ends up happening is Danny Cage gets shot, like right in the chest, and where the battle has led to is this kind of makeshift sanctuary that revolves around a fallen object, Mjolnir, which has been left behind, and these people worship Mjolnir as like a sacred relic. And So she gets shot, and she's kind of stumbling. She falls, and Mjolnir falls right by her like head, and she like reaches out for it and takes it up, and poof, she becomes Thor.
Yep.
So it's like, we've got another Thor reincarnation.
You got a Thor.
Yep. Which, do we even have a backstory on what happens with Thor in the Old Man Logan universe at all?
I don't recall what happened with them.
So,
I don't either.
so it feels
be
like it's a
honest.
setup for something to come.
Yep.
But again, it would be an Old Man universe kind of.
Right.
But I could see a spin-off coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And,
I can imagine they'd make a reveal like that and then not do anything with it.
This is an interesting point. I never thought of that. I thought that they did that as like just like a plot point, that they would be like, oh, we got to find some way for a hero legacy to continue. 'Cause
Yeah.
basically, in this universe, Logan has like murdered all the superheroes at one point. Mysterio controls
Yes.
his mind, right?
Yep.
And he just like kills, just massacres everybody. So there's essentially no heroes left except for, I guess, the Hulk gang, the villains like Red Skull, and then like Logan. But Logan at that point had pretty much resigned himself to like not fighting anymore.
Yep.
So my thought, although I could see them doing a buddy spin-off with her and Bruce Jr.
Yeah.
in the Wastelands, that'd be interesting, kind of like a Mad Max style series. My thought was that they're trying to bring back like superheroes in that like wasteland where
Beyond Thunder God.
Bring it back.
Oh wait, that was Thunder Drum. Sorry.
Thunder God.
Beyond Thunder God, very nicely done.
I'll lower the pun jar again.
Yeah, that gets an 8. We need cards. we need scorecards.
We get the pun jar down
That's a
here.
good
That's what
idea.
need
We
to
should
do.
do that.
We only need the 1 and the 0. And one of us has the 1, the other one has the 0.
So yes, I didn't mean to distract from the point you were making. Okay.
I don't necessarily know if there was a point.
Yeah, no, I mean, that'd be a great way to close it off. Is basically say like, okay, you know what, the last hero on Earth has fallen, but a new one is about to arise.
Yes, I thought that was that's kind of a nice way to tie that series, that whole storyline, the whole universe, side universe.
And what better way to do it than with one of the oldest properties, Thor, and it being a relic that can actually transfer the powers of that hero to the wielder.
Yep.
So it kind of makes sense, you know.
Which we've seen before. We've seen the power of Thor be transferred to other dudes,
Yep.
to women, to aliens,
Animals.
A frog.
animals. Yeah. Like,
So we do know that it's a canon thing. It's a great way to both save her life and also say, you know, birth of a new hero.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have to say one thing, and I know I mentioned it before we started filming, was, you know, I'm all excited about this big matchup between
Wolverine,
Old Man
Sabretooth.
Logan and Sabretooth going at it.
Yeah.
And there's so much smack talk about, oh, I killed you once. Oh, yeah, well, you
fight
didn't
like
do
my
a good
grandma.
job. You know, like, and literally, the fight lasts like 3 panels. And right before he meets his end, it's that, like, he's smack talking him.
Yeah,
Like-
and then he really went out like a chump.
And he just, yeah, exactly. He goes out like it was nothing. Gets
It was
shredded like a water balloon, for crying out loud. Like, give me a break.
It was pretty, I gotta say, it was pretty good. I mean, like, you know, Wolverine does the whole thing where he digs both his claws and just kind of tears the guy apart.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's like, you know, from limb to limb. I don't know.
Anticlimactic.
Maybe. Maybe.
It's almost kind of funny though, because you're following this guy that's basically like he's old, he's withered. For a long time, he was completely retired, and he's had to come back into his element. But he's never really gotten his old self back. So again, he's very like grizzled, and he's just barely fighting his way through all this mess.
Yeah.
And now he's toe in toe with this guy that has been like a major rival to him throughout the entirety of his ongoing series.
That's his nemesis.
Yeah, like they they have been the two.
They have.
And he gets there, and you would expect this massive climactic battle, especially with him being old and like struggling and stuff. That you think Sabretooth's going to get some good shots in,
Yeah.
and ultimately it's going to come down to like this moment. But no, he's just like, no, end it. Just like, what am I
Clearly,
wasting time
Sabretooth
for?
learned
Just
nothing from
rip
all
them
the
apart.
previous battles.
Well, okay. Well, let's also just say, in fairness of Sabretooth, he wasn't in exactly tip-top shape either. I guess
Yeah,
at
he's
one
already
point,
been like put together.
Wolverine has like literally tore this guy to pieces before, separated the pieces into like various
Buried
parts,
him.
yeah, across the country so that he can't like regenerate.
Yeah.
And somehow he's Frankenstein himself back together. So he's not really in like tip-top shape. Neither of them are. So
True.
maybe that's what
That's
it is.
fair.
Maybe it's just like two
I
crusty
mean,
old
think
guys
about
on the
it
front
like
just
this.
trying to get into like a slap fight.
You've got
Grumpy old man.
you've got
Marvel
old man
version.
versus old man going at it. Like, you seen the Family Guy with the old German.
Oh right,
basically-
yeah. And then Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert like fought in the war, and he recognized this guy as being like an old Nazi general that Chris was like spending a lot of time with. So then they go and fight, and it's just like the final climax of the whole thing is he trips and falls off like that 6-inch like step, and he's falling backwards, and Herbert's like reaching out to try and like save his life, and he falls back and like breaks his hip.
That's it. So I mean, yeah, it's
Oh,
an old man
gosh.
fight.
That's fair.
So-
That's fair.
Old man fight.
It's
Old man fight.
It was an old
Yep.
man fight.
Sabretooth hits him with his cane, so he just kind of rips him to pieces.
So, yeah. So maybe we'll see something else from this world. Like you said, it could be the buddy team up Mad Max thing that you're talking about.
That's
But
kind of cool.
yeah. But again, I'm very happy that now we get to concentrate on one Logan.
Yes, one Logan. And,
One Logan.
I thought the ending was very sweet. He goes back to the farm and he sees his family, and
Yep.
he just kind of I think Wolverine. Obviously, he didn't know that the series was called Dead Man Logan, but I think he realized that this
He
was.
didn't know. You know who probably knew? Deadpool.
Deadpool probably
Old man
did. Maybe he
Deadpool
might.
is
Old
just
man Deadpool told him.
Hey,
Dude.
by the way.
Just heads up. Just watch your back.
But I can just imagine Deadpool going through like all the comics. Like, you guys know that you're just a comic book, right? What? Yeah.
You're not real.
But this reminded me a lot of the movie Logan, where it was like, that Logan was basically, he realized like he wasn't living anymore, right? He was just existing, just getting by.
Yep.
And it wasn't until he found a purpose to die for that he, really started living again. And that's what I felt like this was, is that he needed a purpose to kind of go out on. He knew this was going to be his last fight.
Right.
So I thought it was a great send-off for him.
Hugh
Indeed.
Jackman did a good job playing an old man too.
Yeah, he did. It's surprising.
You did.
Yeah. I actually for a while forgot that he wasn't that old.
He's not.
He's still a young fit man.
He is.
Uh,
So, moving on. What else do we have?
Well, I think sticking with Old Man Logan, we were talking
Yep.
about the original series being created by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino.
Yeah.
We recently had a DC Black Label book that came out last week called Joker Smile, which was by that exact
is that-
same creative team.
That's kind of interesting. I didn't even realize that when we were
Yeah.
going through our
Look at
lineup,
that.
but that is very
so
true.
that's a face not
Yeah.
even a mother could love.
That is
If you watch Joker, you know about his mother and
lols.
Crying.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, good stuff.
But yeah, we got some interesting art here.
Mm-hmm.
What
So
happens in this?
Yeah. So
I
this
don't
is
know.
kind of it's a little bit of a. I mean, it's almost got like a Harley-esque thing with this guy, right? So Joker, really, we just have a quick lead up to basically where he's back at Arkham, right? So, and what place in there he's, is really not so important. Batman puts him in there after he basically pops a bunch of
Yep.
balloons. He gives out balloons to people and ends up popping them, and it's a deadly gas
So
that
the
kills.
Joker gas that Jokerizes and kills people.
Exactly. And so he ends up in Arkham, and here's this young, well, I don't want to say young psychologist, but a family man psychologist who is basically convinced that he's going to find a cure for the Joker's ills, basically, and he's going to make a name for himself by doing this. But they make a reference, actually, in the story, which I don't know if it's a reference towards Harley Quinn, but they make a reference towards the last psychologist to have gotten into Joker's head was driven mad, basically.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of took that to be maybe a Harley reference.
Oh, that's very
you know,
good. I
and
didn't.
not wanting to lose another,
Psychologist.
another, brilliant mind, basically, to such a psychopath.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, that's one thing I picked up on. But, and so really, who's being worked here, right? Is it the psychologist working the Joker and figuring him out, or is the Joker totally playing him? You know?
There was a line he uses where he's like, I can't tell if you're lying or not. You know, it's like, how do you expect to diagnose someone if you can't tell like what's truth or not? And that's a very good point. I think going back to your reference to Harley Quinn, there's another Black Label book out that's out currently called Harleen, and it's being written and drawn by Stephen Sedgwick, and it's brilliant. And it kind of retells the story of Harley Quinn, being this young, idealistic psychologist, thinking that she has a grip on what is causing the supervillains in Gotham to be evil, like this, have this general lack of empathy. And she thinks, she meets the Joker, and she thinks, oh, I can cure this guy, but the whole time the Joker is just like completely mind manipulating her and telling her what she needs to hear so that he can control her.
Yep.
And it's probably one of the things that to me that makes these depictions of the Joker the most frightening is that he's not really insane to the point where he doesn't understand right or wrong. He is fully aware of it, but like he's just so manipulative in that he doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. And this young, educated guy has almost fooled himself. Like maybe it's pride, or it's maybe his sense of purpose, and this whole thing has blinded him to the dangers of him walking into that room and actually having this discussion. He's even warned, like, how many times has Joker escaped this facility? Oh, but Arkham, it's just Arkham just keeps getting better and better with their security because they just learn from their mistakes and blah blah. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. Yeah. And then you have that very creepy moment where he goes home and he actually has bought a book for his child and is reading the bedtime story, and you realize that the bedtime story was actually probably published by the Joker himself.
Yeah.
So for those of you that haven't watched it, basically halfway through the book, he starts reading his son this bedtime story, and the artistic page changes for a couple spreads. Yep. And it's like you're reading a children's book.
Yes.
It's like illustrating this really kind of happy, very cartoony style, and it's about these people in happy.
Want to hold it up for
Happyville, and how one day a character called Mr. Smiles appears in Happyville, and he has like a tool that everyone's really super interested in, and it's a chainsaw, and he's like, yeah, just step right up and I'll show you. And the father can't understand like why he's reading his son this book, but like his son's like, no, please keep finishing it. You got this for me. I want you to finish reading it. And it's just super disturbing. And the big reveal happens at the end is that when he's back in having a session with the Joker, the Joker starts telling him the story about the Happyville plays, and it was just really, really twisted.
So he's just.
I want to point out too. A lot of this artwork, like, you get a couple homages to a couple different cinematic Jokers here.
Oh yeah. In this one?
Yeah.
In this one particularly?
So this is
okay.
not Nicholson, isn't it? No,
This to me reminds me of like Leto when he was doing his Joker promos.
Well, so this right here is something that the Joaquin Phoenix
Yes.
Joker does.
Yes.
But
He
the
does
face,
that right at the
who's,
beginning of the movie.
the first Joker before
Jack?
Jack? Or was he
Caesar.
after?
Oh, the
Yeah.
Cesar Romero?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is very reminiscent of the Cesar Romero.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you actually look at the character of the Joker as illustrated within the pages, look at the scars on his face, like Heath Ledger's Joker.
By all their powers combined, they make the best Joker.
So it's like, and I mean, I'm a huge Heath Ledger fan, and he very much has a Heath Ledger-esque facial structure. But yeah, there's a lot of homage here in the
That's cool.
artwork too.
Yep.
I'm noticing, so that's really cool and interesting. That's just a little side that I
Yep.
wanted to mention.
Is this meant for? Is this?
It's a kid's
this
book.
looks like a kid's book. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all ages. Teen owner.
This appears to be just a one-shot to me, even though it says book one.
Oh no.
Or
This
is
is
this going to be a series?
Yeah, I want to say that there was 3 to this one. It's not a maxi. It's definitely a mini series.
Yep.
But there's gonna be more to this. Like they're gonna delve deeper into this Mr. Smiles character
Okay.
and like what the mystery is behind that book.
Yeah, there's your.
Oh, right.
There's your Leto-esque.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought it was really interesting that at one point when they're talking to the psychologist and his wife's asking him like, what's your purpose? Or I forget what was his wife. Someone's asking him like, why are you doing this? Like basically, what's the point? Why would you want to cure the Joker? What does that accomplish? I mean, it doesn't bring anyone back to life. It doesn't. You can't possibly redeem him for
the
when
Joker says it himself by saying, how's that going to change the lives of the hundreds of people I've killed?
Right. It doesn't really do anything. It's like really. It's hubris, right? This guy's just trying to do it to, he's doing under the guise like, well, we fix the Joker, we save lives because he doesn't kill anymore, and then like we also stop future serial killers.
Sure.
But
Yep.
you
But
got to
really, is he doing it for himself?
Right.
Because he's trying to make a name for himself.
I don't know. I guess I'll find out.
Pride.
Stay
Pride.
tuned to find out.
Pride comes before something, right?
Before the fall. Right?
I say before cake, but yeah.
Before
probably,
cake?
Yeah, before the fall probably is more. Far more accurate.
Cake comes before everything.
I thought it was summer comes before the fall.
Oh,
not bad.
good one, producer man.
We'll give him a 6.
Yeah, 6.
That's not a pun, that's just a fact.
So the Black Label series. Let's talk just for a couple minutes about DC's Black Label books.
Sure.
Because I think they are doing some interesting things with them.
Is essentially what they're like. They used to have a few imprints. Like they'd have Vertigo, like the Vertigo imprint for their adult themed like horror books. Then they had like the Young Animals imprint where they're doing stuff like Doom Patrol.
Yep.
And some like Daniel
Carson's.
Cave Carson, right?
Yep.
And they've gotten rid of basically all of those imprints, and I think most of them are being folded under this Black Label imprint, which is cool because like again, it lets them tell offbeat stories that don't necessarily have to like fit within the DC canon. Like here's another one that came out is Joker / Harleen, and
Criminal Sanity.
yeah, it's a bit of like almost like a police procedural.
Yeah.
Like noirish type book.
Yep.
And
Reminds me a little bit of like the Frank Miller, like the Sin City type stuff. in some
hard-boiled,
ways.
right? Hard-boiled detective crime stories.
Yep.
Great art. I mean, I think it's Marco Swayan's doing the art. It is fantastic in this book. And yeah, stuff that they can't do is like it's a little more violent, a little more edgy.
Yep.
Also, you can tell like they have a lot more freedom over the format. Like that's a magazine-sized comic for Joker Smiles, and the next book that we're gonna actually is also a Black Label book, Basket Full of Heads, and that's
yes.
just
This
like
one
a
is interesting.
regular-sized comic.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I think that's a good good segue into Basketful of Heads, which is the next book
Absolutely.
that we're gonna talk about.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And this is more of a horror story, and it's by Joe Hill.
Joe Hill.
And we
Son
all
of Stephen King.
yes, son of Stephen King and the writer of the much beloved Lock and Key, one of my
Yes.
and one of your favorites, I know.
Absolutely.
And just all around good horror storyteller.
And he's got his own the Shash. Yes, and
So there's your.
so
Homages
we'll get to
there.
that. We will get to that for sure.
I
But
didn't realize that the first time I read it. I just saw it now.
I love the fact that he's got his own. So it's under the DC Black Label, but now there's a sub group of titles underneath that banner
Right.
called Joe Hill House Comics,
The Hill House comics.
which I love because Hill House series on Netflix, by the way, super awesome. You guys should see
Haven't
it.
watched yet.
Oh, you got to watch it. It's
I'm not a
awesome.
big horror fan.
It is
watch
not so much a horror show, but I don't want to get off track. But we'll
Oh,
talk
that's-
about that again later.
Interesting. I thought it was I thought it was a play on Hell House, but no, there's a show called Hill House.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like based off Stephen King stories.
No.
The Haunting of Hill House. No,
No. Completely
no.
separate.
Completely separate from
Yeah,
Stephen King.
Completely
Never mind.
separate. But Joe Hill very cleverly, because I don't know if he chose this pen name, maybe based on
Hill House?
Hill House, The Haunting of Hill House. I don't know. We'd have to find out in
I
his
feel
bio,
I
maybe
feel
in an
like Hill
interview.
House is a little bit
if
like recent. Like how
Well-
recently has he taken up this pen name? That's,
No, well, The Haunting of Hill House it came from a while back. I can't remember which
Oh, okay.
decade.
All right.
So this was kind of a retelling.
See, the Netflix show is the
Yeah.
first thing I've ever heard of it. Then again, I'm not a big horror person, like I said.
Yep.
Well, I can't
But-
say I don't know how he picked that name.
But, I don't know how he picked the name, but I like how he ended up doing the comic imprint, I
Yeah.
guess you could say, right?
The sub-imprint of the
his-
imprint.
Yeah, that he's actually calling it Hill House Comics,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool for me. But
I think it's kind of cool, but I don't
this
understand.
is the very first one under that title.
Yeah.
Now, not all of the books under the Hill House imprint are going to be written by Joe Hill.
Correct.
So, however, he does have several stories that he's going to be telling through it. And so this is the first, Basket Full of Heads.
Basket Full of Heads.
Yep.
I wonder what this story's going to be about.
And
probably
so it kind of starts
couple
off
heads in a
with
basket.
Yeah, you'd think that, right? And it
Basket's
starts off
probably
with
gonna be
heads and
full, yeah.
baskets.
it does. It does. Yep.
It's just a bunch of pictures of heads in baskets. This is weird.
It's literally 20 pages of just baskets and heads.
It made me think of that old camp 80s horror movie called Basket Case.
Basket Case. I know I've probably seen that movie back when I was a youngin', but I can't remember what the premise was.
It was these twin brothers. They were conjoined twins. One was like a regular looking dude, and the other was like this like malformed monster, basically. And they traveled together. You know, they were surgically removed, but one of the brothers was kept in a basket, basically, and they traveled around the country together. And whenever someone opened the basket that wasn't the twin brother, this like horrible stop motion monster would jump out and do bad things to people.
Okay.
But I don't know, like when I started to read this comic, it was I gotta don't look in the basket, don't open the basket, because these horrible monsters are gonna come out and eat you, kind of thing. But I didn't get too far into this before.
I don't think this story is going anywhere near that.
No.
This seems to be more of at least so far, a straightforward,
Trapped in the house?
Yeah.
just,
They're
there's
actually
murders
doing
happening in
that.
the town type of
That's like-
thing, and like some
like
bad
the
stuff is
last
happening. There's some bad dudes on the loose,
pages.
and it's going to be exactly a home under siege
Yeah.
type of story. But the setup is really cool. It's set in the I want to say it's set in the 80s.
Yeah, maybe even before
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean,
Maybe.
look at this high end cell phone right here that only the
So probably 80s with the
Yeah,
big cellular, like
Yeah.
Miami Vice style
Big
cellular
cell
phones.
phones and big hair.
Yeah,
only the
Yeah, the way the
richest
cars
families.
are.
Yeah.
It kind of
Yep.
looks like it's that.
I mean, he literally
that's
has
house.
he has a
yep. The
buggy.
girlfriend definitely has the 80s style, like shorts, t-shirt type of thing going.
And also that
like,
kind of like the
and-
setup for the movies, like
and-
that. Like it starts off like kind of like a summer thing, whereas like this
Yes.
guy, he took a job as like a deputy for the summer.
That's right.
And he's like just getting off. He's kicking it
Yep.
with his gal, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden he gets called to a scene where it looked like there was like just like a
It was a chain gang.
Yeah, a chain gang, and like some dudes were able to like just like beat
Bounce.
it.
Yep.
So they got free, and now like there's a bunch of criminals out on the loose.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you've got the sheriff. Well, first of all, the main character, the young deputy, is kind of like one of those guys who he wants to be helpful, but at the same time he doesn't know if he has a stomach for the job, right? So
Right.
he's a little conflicted. His girlfriend is, basically coming to pick him up, help him pack so they can leave and go back home. And here they are, basically doing one last favor for the sheriff of the town. The sheriff says, "Hey, I got to go take care of a situation. Can you just kind of go to my house, just keep an eye on things and keep an eye on my wife and my kid, who obviously I don't have a lot of faith in. Be the man of the house just for one night while I'm gone." And it's going to be that that twist of fate ask, right? That leads you to peril.
Yep.
And a seemingly easy task that turns bad. And but the setup is great. The dialogue is awesome. In the Joe Hill's writing is very solid in this,
Yeah.
as you would
The
expect.
dialogue is fantastic.
Absolutely.
No.
You're starting to you connect with the characters. Like
Yeah.
Joe seems to have the gift that his father has, because I think as much as Stephen King has a knack for storytelling, his greatest strength, I believe, is in writing characters that are relatable and
Believable.
that people can just like they almost feel like I can be this person in this story. There's this, and you kind of thrust yourself into the middle of it. And I do think it's interesting that Joe decided, even though he's building this, he has a pantheon of his own works now that he's starting to grow, right? So he's a novelist. He's not just doing comic books. He's written some pretty good novels, Horns, Nosferatu, just to name a couple of them, short stories like 20th Century Ghosts as a collection. And the fact that he brought into, Tyler was starting to allude to it, there's a little bit of an Easter egg in this book, or in this first issue of Basket Full of Heads. The chain gang is derived from
Shawshank Prison,
Shawshank Prison.
Derry County, Maine.
Yep. So I thought that was kind of interesting and a nice nod to his father's works.
Yep.
And I'm actually kind of excited about that because you've got the whole like Castle Rock stories that Stephen King has, and the fact that Stephen King's getting up there in years, and love his works and everything like that. And Joe's kind of like maybe bringing a little bit of that into his generation, right? And maybe exactly carrying that torch on for his dad. So that's kind of cool that made its way into the storytelling.
I agree. Totally nice that he's bringing that legacy, carrying that legacy on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Which is, I think part of the reason why I took up the pseudonym of Joe Hill is so that he could be, people wouldn't automatically think like, just son of Stephen King.
He'd be his own man.
He could be his own man, but you can definitely tell that he takes, a lot of his influence from his father's work.
He certainly does. There's actually he penned a little letter to the fans in the back of this book. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it's basically to introduce the Hill House comics. And I can't help when I read that letter. It's almost as if it's in his father's voice. The way he signs off is very reminiscent of how his dad would sign off when he would write the afterwords in his novels. So he's got a lot of the similar characteristics there, which is kind of nice. It's a nod to his dad, or maybe he just can't help himself. I don't know. It's just
It's almost like a sense of pride that he has, carrying on the King legacy.
yeah, absolutely. So it's it's interesting. It's almost as if like King living through his son in a way, which is kind of cool.
Yes, that's a twist.
Maybe.
Well, before we get off of Basket Full of Heads, we should probably mention
A little teaser.
well, just how they got the name, why it's called Basket Full of Heads. And we sort of glossed over it because like it happened so quickly. Because really, the first page there's like a page where there's some talking heads being like on a bridge. We don't get any explanation of it, and
That's
actually there are no baskets or heads. Well, actually, I can't at least not severed
No,
heads.
none.
No.
No baskets of heads yet.
No baskets of heads appearing yet. But what does appear is this axe. So when they go
Yes.
to take care of the sheriff's wife, they go to their
Yep.
house, and the house is full of like these antiques.
Yes.
And not really much said other than like every year the wife gets an antique for the sheriff's birthday. One of the antiques they pass is this axe that glows ominously as they pass it. And it's not explained anywhere in the issue, but if you read the solicits, it explains that axe has the magical ability that when you decapitate someone with it, the person's head can still speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is where the basket full of heads
Yep.
will be coming from.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Which
right.
is funny because in the next picture is a basket full of arms, and letters is a basket full of heads.
And I really wish they hadn't talked about that so much in the solicits, because I think that would have been a nice little like surprise twist, right?
I think so too.
And
But I think that the problem is that they named it basket full of heads.
true.
And they needed to like give you something to bring you on, because like honestly, if like I had just read this as a first issue and been like, what the hell's going on, and why is
Yeah.
it called this?
Yep.
Why is it called Basket Full of Heads? The Basket Full of Heads makes no sense in the narrative. It shows up for that first page, but then is never explained again. I think it's kind of nice, because otherwise I would have been completely lost.
I guess. First part, Joe Hill actually kind of blows his own spot in the letter to the fans about the Hill House comics that are upcoming, and in a way he gives away some of the storyline. So I just want to warn people out there who pick up the first issue. If you do read that letter, you might have some stuff revealed that you don't want revealed.
Well,
I mean, we kind of did it here, but it's
Yeah.
it's
It's too late now.
It's too late now for this, but yeah, I do find that a little disappointing. Like, keep the mystery alive, like.
Sure.
I wouldn't have cared one bit. I mean, the fact that I'm a Joe Hill, Stephen King fan, I was going to read this book anyway.
sure.
And I would have been left wondering, in this serialized format that we have here, hanging on, to this idea, like, where's this going to go? Like, where, my mind's racing, like, well, what is this a reference to? I'm cool with that. But anyway, I am excited because there are some other stories here. We got a little bit of a sample chapter in this book too of another book. Was it Sea Dogs?
Sea Dogs, yeah.
Sea Dogs, and in the Sea Dogs tale is also written by Joe Hill. It does not have a release date because it does not. Well, they're not sharing it in the upcoming releases, but you do get a few teaser pages. But it's basically the untold tale of how we won the Revolutionary War
Werewolves
against the British. Werewolves
on the high seas.
Yep.
on the high seas. This is so.
And I
What
think
like that? What an interesting concept
what an
that
interesting
is.
concept. And I think this is what.
Werewolf pirates? Am I hearing that?
No,
right?
they're not
Werewolf
pirates. They're
They're more like mercenaries, like the
they're
Hessians.
hired by like the Navy, I think, kind of.
Nautical werewolves.
So the British had the Hessians, right, who were basically German mercenaries in the colonies.
I'll take
right?
I'll take your word for it.
So they were basically mercenary soldiers for the Brits.
Which is crazy because then.
So now this is
later
kind of
on
like
in the Civil War,
the
they have
offset.
vampires.
The offset is, I guess, we had our own mercenaries, but they were just a little bit more supernatural in nature.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting twist.
It's an interesting twist. Why would they only use them on the ocean, though? It feels like you'd want to use them in open fields as combat.
So I guess the idea was that the admiral is failing. Broad Street, Broad something, was basically this feared admiral who was basically pounding the port cities. So the one thing keeping us from winning the war, or turning the tide, was the lack of gunpowder, which the French were willing to give to the colonies to win the war against England. They had, obviously England and France had no love for each other at that time, and they had a vested interest in the revolution actually winning, or turning the tide
for US,
for the United States, for the colonies. But there was no way, because of the supremacy of the British Navy, for the French to actually get the gunpowder through to the port cities of the colonies.
Oh, interesting.
So the biggest threat to us winning was keeping the British Navy so supreme. Because even if there was a port city that was, we were able to sneak the gunpowder, the French were able to sneak the gunpowder through in the port city. Once that intelligence got back to the British, they would just bring in this admiral and just pound the city and shell the city, with this fearsome barge, or warship, basically. So this was the biggest threat to the colonies.
Interesting.
Yep.
A little bit of history there for you.
Yeah, it was. So I don't know. I'm very we only got about 3 pages worth of story, but definitely fertile ground for some pretty cool storytelling, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one seems a little more straightforward than Basket Full of Heads. It's like sea dogs, it's like werewolf, on the seas. It's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Right out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's nice to see different types of stories being told. They already have this, it seems like a pretty diverse group of stories lined up for us.
What was the third one that they had? They had one more, right?
Plunge, about a savage crew sent to the subarctic to recover a ship that has reemerged after 40 years lost to the ice. But the hands
crew
who were
is still
believed
alive.
long dead are still quite alive and full of unnerving new tricks.
Yep.
Being drawn by Stuart Immonen, who used to be on Spider-Man. He drew some of the best Spider-Man of our times.
Wow.
Awesome stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Another thing to look forward to.
They spare no expense with the creative team.
Yeah, I hope DC does very well with this with the Joe Hill Comics, Hill House Comics imprint. Joe Hill himself said that his father brought home I believe it was something Ghosts. It was a DC.
You will believe in ghosts.
May I? Just for a second?
Yep.
An issue of. You will believe in ghosts. That's right. You had it right.
Didn't believe you.
And that, well,
I don't like horror, right?
right. Well, I had to verify, trust but verify, right? So this book right here, DC was actually at the time, comics were a little bit different back in the early '70s. You had a little bit more of a range of types of stories that, that probably kind of disappeared during the 80s and 90s when I started reading comics.
Yeah, it was.
You did not really have horror comics at that point.
Or like war comics.
Or war comics, exactly. Yeah. So the comic industry was modeled a little bit differently at that time, and this was a comic book that Stephen King brought back to his son, and You Will Believe in Ghosts, and he was just hooked on this genre and that type of story. Telling in that form right from the get-go. So this is kind of like Joe Hill wants to bring this back into today's day and age of comic book storytelling. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm all for having more horror in our comics. I've always liked horror in comics. It's such a good medium for it because the way that they do the panels, it's obviously nothing like CGI that they can do in the movies, but there's something almost even more horrific about like having your brain put together, like those panels and some of the artwork and constructing the gore and violence in your mind. It's I think it's a great medium for telling horror.
Absolutely. So wow, we didn't talk any Marvel books.
We talked about.
Oh wait, we talked. Oh gosh, we did.
opened.
Oh my gosh, I'm so tired right now.
We just spent so much time talking about DC stuff. That's
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm feeling
gosh,
a little sick
it
myself.
felt.
That was amazing. I can't believe we got through 2 DC books, and like Tyler, you've been
I mean, to be
very well behaved.
to be fair, it
Yeah.
involved two things that I like within DC, and that's the Joker and stuff that is not directly affiliated with any of the superheroes.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Oh my gosh, senioritis. So, nothing 616 related anyway.
No.
But yeah,
Good stuff.
next time around, I'm sure we're going to have a lot more good stuff for you. We don't know what it is yet, but we'll see what
It'll
the
probably
comic
be a
industry
comic
springs
book.
on us.
Probably,
It
yeah.
probably will be a comic
Marvel,
book of some
Marvel or
sort.
DC, I would imagine.
Just
Maybe,
some more indie in there.
possibly. No?
Yeah.
You want some indies in there?
Any good indies on the shelf right now?
No.
Yeah. Are you still reading Die? The role playing one, that's still really good.
Die, yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed the one with the gin. What was that called?
The Gin?
Yeah,
Which one was that?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, Infidel.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that one they haven't put out an issue in that for a while.
Yeah, I think.
Manifest Destiny's back.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Mhm.
I heard they're wrapping up soon.
Are they?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I think they're going to be ending that series after a few more arcs.
Okay. Well, you still get Gideon.
Gideon Falls.
Gideon Falls.
Gideon Falls is still rocking.
Yeah, that's still going.
Spawn had 301
Spawn
last
did
month.
it. That's right. We didn't get to talk about that tonight.
Oblivion, was it?
Oblivion Song.
Oblivion
Robert
Song,
Kirkman's
Kirkman.
book. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's still going strong. Yeah, there's still some good stuff out in Indie World.
Yeah.
There is. There is.
Should bring him some of this. Like give him a little break from DC.
Well, maybe Tyler should bring us some suggestions to the table for next month.
All right, I'm
We
gonna read.
can-
I'm gonna read them all. I'm gonna read all the DC.
Oh, he said it. He said it.
Indie-
You heard him.
indie-
Yeah.
Indie books.
It has been spoken. It will be done.
That's not getting.
We don't
into that.
encourage gambling, but the over/under on that, probably not so favorable.
No, it's under.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm gonna bet on myself and make $1 million.
All right, there we go. I like it. I hope he proves us wrong. So thank you again for watching. We really appreciate it. Love to hear the comments. And we'll see you guys next month.
All right.
Great work, guys.
Really
Nice
hot in
one.
here.